Welcome back. Thom Hartmann here with you, and Sam Lane with the Minnesota Independent. Is it .com, Sam?
It is .com, yes.
.com is the website. And Sam, welcome to the program.
Thank you very much. Thanks for having me.
So give us an update on what's going on in Minnesota right now.
Well, it's not great. As I'm sure everybody knows, the last night at midnight, the Minnesota state government shut down as Republican legislative leaders and Governor Mark Dayton were unable to come to a deal on the budget, and that has, basically shut down all services that the judges have deemed non-essential. So lots of human services type things, construction projects, state parks, like you mentioned earlier. A very broad range of things have been affected by this shutdown already.
So what's the, I laid out my conspiracy theory of this, that the Republicans are doing this in Minnesota in part as a test of what's happening at what could be done at the federal level to see if they can bring down Governor Dayton. Sure. Is there any talk of that kind of thing, or is this just, what we're going to see all over the country? Republicans are just never, ever going to stand up to the Koch brothers and the other billionaires that are basically paying their payrolls.
Yeah, I don't know how much I've heard that conspiracy theory around here, but I think it's a lot about you said the second part there, that these Republican legislators are really just trying to stake their claim here. They were elected to the majority in the legislature here in Minnesota, but at the same time, Governor Dayton, who's obviously a Democrat, took the spot as the governor. So there's this it's definitely a power struggle here, and I think you're right. It's definitely something that we're seeing around the country, mirrored here in the Twin Cities. And like I think I heard you mention earlier, it's very similar to the situation that's happening at the federal level with President Obama. It's Republicans definitely trying to continue to force their ideals. I think one of the things that was mentioned last night as talks were winding down and it was pretty clear that the shutdown was going to happen, that they continued to even press on social issues when this really seemed to be a budget issue. They had brought up in their final proposals to Governor Dayton, they had brought up restrictions on voter IDs and abortion things as well. So even
so when they're even trying to get election rigging in there. It's amazing. That's absolutely amazing. Sam, we're talking with Sam Lane, the reporter with the Minnesota Independent. MinnesotaIndependent.com is the website. Sam, how long is this going to last?
Oh, wow, Tom, your guess is probably as good as mine. It really seems like a stalemate here. It's hard to say, when they'll come to an agreement, what that agreement will look like. I was at the Capitol last night speaking with hundreds of, I wasn't personally speaking, but there were hundreds of state workers on the steps of the Capitol protesting this shutdown and protesting GOP action that has taken place here. And they were saying, the hardest part about this is we don't know if it will be resolved in 2 minutes. Obviously, it hasn't been 2 minutes, but 2 hours, 2 months, 2 days. It's really anyone's guess at this point.
Here's, I think, probably the most important political question about the whole thing. And first of all, forgive my ignorance, Minnesota, bicameral legislature, unicameral?
I believe it's bicameral.
You have a House and a Senate?
Excuse me, yes, we do.
And they both are under the control of the Republicans?
Correct.
Okay, great. So it's not like there's going to be a legislative solution worked out between, a Democratic House and a Republican Senate, for example, that kind of thing. I mean, you've got Republicans in charge of the entire legislative branch in Minnesota, and you've got a Democrat in the executive branch. That makes the picture very stark. It makes it very clear, I think, for Minnesotans. And I'm wondering, not just among your friends and mine, or people who might listen to Progressive Talk Radio, or our affiliate in Minnesota, for example, but the average person on the street, the average person who watches sports and listens to rock and roll or whatever more than and never listens to political talk radio or political television. Who are they blaming?
I think it's a little bit of both. I think that definitely more of what I've been hearing is putting more blame on the Republicans and on the legislature. I think they're seen as more stubborn than Governor Dayton. I think that a lot of times it's Dayton has been willing to offer up these compromises, and the Republicans haven't really been willing to budge on some of those things. I think a lot of people are seeing the Republican offers as sort of faux offers, if you will, really just repackaging different deals to make it seem like maybe they had offered something new, offered some sort of compromise. I think that's a lot of what I've been hearing is that there's they're maybe making it look like they had made some sort of effort to meet in the middle with Dayton, but that maybe that's not all all realistic. And
Sam, we have just a minute left. To what extent is this budget crisis the result of disasters left by Tim Pawlenty, your previous governor?
I think it's hard to say. I think you mentioned something earlier that $5 billion deficit has really caused some problems, and I think it's interesting because the Republicans are really using that piece here, saying that we don't want this debt to be passed down to our to future generations, but the fact of the matter is that maybe one of their own was the cause of some of that deficit. So
has that been quantified?
Excuse me?
Has that been quantified? I mean, is there a newspaper headline that says, $2.3 billion of the debt was Tim Pawlenty hiding it in here, there, and the other place?
I don't think I've seen any headline quite like that, but I think there are certainly rumblings like it's the sentiments that you expressed earlier on your show that that's sort of something that he's left the state with, and that Governor Dayton has had to deal with. I think that sentiment has certainly been echoed around a little bit.
Fascinating. This is, I suspect, going to be a microcosm, a micro to the macro of the United States. And Governor Dayton's standing firm. We'll see how long he can, and hopefully President Obama will do the same thing in his response to the Republicans. Sam Lane with the Minnesota Independent, MinnesotaIndependent.com. Thanks, Sam, for being with us today.
Thank you for having me.
Keep up the great reporting.